The entire company is built around a victim narrative.
I started out in the industry in 2013, and being a black woman in the industry,
There it is. Immediately. Like
Mhm.
came in with the victim mentality. All right, here we go.
being a marginalized person in these spaces has not always been easy. In fact, it's been downright abusive at times.
How?
Yeah.
Provide me examples. Tell me how. Tell
Someone
me who
looked
did
at
it.
me funny.
Tell me
Blanket
how.
statement.
Tell me who, and let's get rid of them. Get rid of those fucking idiots, right?
Yeah.
If these people are creating,
They
a
don't want
toxic
to. They
environment-
don't want to get rid of them, Craig, because otherwise you lose that card.
Has not always been easy. In fact, it's been downright abusive at times, and I'm sure that no one in this room is surprised to hear that. But there is so much abuse, so much toxicity, so much awfulness in the industry, and that was how I kind of came through it for the first several years of my career.
Okay, it's so bad. There's so much toxicity. It's such a pressure cooker. There's so much misogyny and racism and toxicity and pressure in this industry. These are their own words right here on it.
Yeah,
It's so fucking bad.
Crazy, because she's literally saying, everyone in this room has experienced it. It's literally her and one other dude.
Well,
what experience? How many other people are there?
now, to be clear, there was one guy who opened up the conversation, who was the
Okay.
first guy, right? There was this guy at the start,
So 3 people. Ooh.
and there was one other person in the chat.
Oh,
So-
all right. So that's a whole lot of experience right there in a massive industry. 3 people. who
And
Right,
can say
here's the
something.
thing is a lot of people have been noticing this as early as 2013, 2014. A lot of people were talking about it on the internet, but it's been a number of years. That's like a decade ago now. So now all these people have weaseled their way into the industry. They've created their own companies and everything, and they're transforming it. So what was originally being just talked about and we were disagreeing with, it's like, if you notice it went quiet, it's because they're getting the work done. And so it's just ridiculous to see, and it's just going to keep getting worse.
Let's go continue here.
Industry, and that was how I kind of came through it for the first several years of my career. But at the same time, what I want to say is that I learned a tremendous amount. I first started it for 5 years in AAA. I worked on Assassin's Creed, on Far Cry, on a couple of games at Ubisoft, and that was tough. I've talked about that very publicly. I've talked about that in a number of forums. And the thing that always gets me is that while it was hard and dealing with all of that stuff is always difficult, it was also hugely informative, and it was beautiful still to work with teams of creative to make something that matters to us and to get something out in the world and experience it. The joy of making games and telling stories is something that for me has not been in any way separable from the experience of how we make them. I put this presentation together with help from
This is in 2019.
David, and it was called Representation as Innovation. And what that meant was essentially I was very tired, I'm still tired of the way that we treat sensitivity and inclusion as kind of aside from development. We go okay, well, hey, can you read this story and tell me if it's offensive to X, Y, or Z group? And for me, when I read a story, I'm not going well, this story is just magically offensive. It's something in the story is making this offensive. Something in the story is not ringing true. And often what it is for me is that speaking as a marginalized person, it's not that I'm looking at a portrayal of myself and going, oh, that's offensive, I can't see it. It's creating instead narrative dissonance where I'm looking at this and I'm going, that's not me. That's not real. And so I wanted to start thinking about diversity not as something that's a nice to have, but as a form of narrative innovation. Seeing
Okay, once again, what the fuck does that mean?
The cringe, man. It's
Speaking-
It's insane because she's saying that's not me, therefore I need to change it. But it's like, what about the original intent? What about the actual fans and customers of this game? Do they not matter? What about, you're destroying solidified franchises with this and Spider-Man and all this stuff because you're personally saying, I'm offended, this needs to be changed.
She says she looks at it and she doesn't see herself. So then in turn, she's offended by not seeing herself.
Yeah.
That's
She wants
fucked
to
up.
transform the work to
No
include
one's gonna
her.
see her. No one else is gonna see anyone else now. They're only gonna see her because that's all. That's what she wants. It's gotta be very, very specific to just her. I find her to be a huge attention whore, honestly. Very self-centered. That's all she wants.
And this ties directly to Spider-Man 2, which is a game that they directly worked on. And it's not even her, but inserting the writer as a Mary Jane self-insert, making Mary Jane super strong and literally looking like her and not the original actress that it was based off of. So yeah, these people are just completely insane and delusional. And it's just, you got to vote with your wallet with these people. It's incredible.
Yeah. Listen, I'm sure Blab's gonna agree with that. I need a video game character that needs to deal with the hardships that come with being overly attractive, charismatic,
Good point.
and athletic, so I can see myself in a video game character.
2019, I put this presentation together.
Oh, that's the previous one. Let's go here. Let's see where are we at? 2020, and 2020 being a defining year. Let's pull you up. Let's make sure we're good.
Early 2020, which unfortunately brought us to the year we all remember. But 2020, I think, was a defining year for us in a lot of ways. And it is partially, I believe, or I can assert, because of everything that was going wrong and going right, I think, at the time. Like the pandemic was going strong in 2020, and there's a confluence between that and Me Too accusations and outings happening throughout the games industry, if folks remember that. And then also there was the Black Lives Matter and the marches that were taking place as a part of that, and the protests. And I think the confluence of those things created a space where I think people were really not sure what to do. It was a reality that now everyone was looking at, that like, hey, things aren't working. We're not treating people fairly. How do we do that? And how do we make games better? And what I started to see was a lot of different people, to their credit, taking a stand, right? We saw a lot of people saying, okay, we're going to get rid of a lot of the called out Me Too folks who now often have found other jobs. We had a lot of people who were saying, hey, we're going to give portfolio reviews to Black writers. We really want to do that. And we also had, places going, okay, we're going to put this fund here, even if they don't necessarily have a plan for it.
Allow me to back up here, and let me kind of fill in the blanks of what she said she saw in 2020. She saw opportunity. She saw dollar signs for her business to grow.
Mm-hmm.
That's what she saw. She saw, holy shit, this is a gold mine that we're about to step on. So we can grow from 3 employees to 16 employees, which they have. They have 16 employees now. And like I said, I think all this is, look, if you feel diversity is important, and as you said, representation is a form of innovation, please show me how. Like, that is the most low-hanging fruit you can possibly have. Like, the idea that just by swapping a male for a female, or a white guy for a black guy, or an Asian woman for a black man, or whatever, that's somehow innovation, is the most bullshit narrative I've ever heard in my life. That is like, that's not innovation in video games. That's not innovation in storytelling. What about that person is unique? It's not that, like, if you being white, or you being Asian, or you being trans, or you being black is your defining purpose, you're fucking boring. You're fucking boring. What about the character makes them unique? What about that character makes them relatable to people outside of their skin color? The entire company is built around a victim narrative. It's insane to me.
It's a form of sociopathy, because it's you're incapable of seeing yourself in another human being unless they present the superficial characteristics that you see in the mirror. You're incapable of seeing yourself in someone that has a different race than you, someone that has a different sexuality or whatever. It's a form of block that a person has from relating to other human beings just because they're human.
It's their fear and laziness, where they're seeing all this stuff, these added touch publishers, and they're like, well, everyone's screaming and crying about this. We need to put more stuff into this, but we don't know anything about this. And then here comes this company being like, hi, we'll do it for you. We'll make sure that no one screams and cries about your game. Just give it to us. Just give it to us.
But what do you think about this? Leave us a comment down below. We read every single one of them. Also, make sure you hit the subscribe button, because you have found your home for common sense in the gaming and entertainment worlds.